Why I like living alone, and I was thinking about the advantages of living alone and why you like to live alone, and I hope you can hear me. And some ideas just popped into my head. One is ease of um, getting to know yourself, getting to know what you like to do, getting to know yourself personally without other people interfering and giving you advice and telling you what to do according to their selves and their lives and what they like. So you're just saying it yourself. Um, to yourself, and then you find out what you like. It could even come down to food. You might find out that everyone tells you to eat certain foods and that, and you try to eat something. Just when you're shopping, you just buy something different, and you take it home, you try it, and you find that you like it or you don't. For me, my view is always, if I don't like it, it goes in the compost bin, so it doesn't get wasted. And if I do like it, I try it and buy it more. So you also can do exercises and go to bed when you want to, wake up when you want to, stay in bed all morning if you want to. Um, Try arts and crafts and things you like, sports, and like I've got a punching bag in my lounge. If I was living with someone, flatting or in a marriage, that wouldn't be allowed. So you do the things you want to do and you enjoy the things you want to enjoy, and so you get a certain amount of freedom. You may not have that freedom forever because being in love and marriage, you've got in a marriage you've got freedom anyway. Between the two of you, it's two of you enjoying the same space. So, and children, if there are any children, so there's that as well. But I'm just talking about stuff that's popped into my head about enjoying um, that life in the sense it's mostly all about choosing and finding yourself and looking deeper and deeper into yourself without other people interfering, and being by yourself is a real treasure. And that's where you really find out who you are, what you really want in life. And you can make a lot of mistakes at home and there's no one to correct you. You learn by trial and error. You don't learn by someone criticizing you, putting you down, saying that's not how you do it, this is how you do it. You just make those mistakes yourself and just correct them yourself as you go. And I like that a lot. I learn far better that way. But that's just some ideas that I thought I'd add. I'll do the rest of the video at home. Living alone is a healing process as well because you get to know yourself, and you might talk to yourself a lot, and you might pray a lot, and in doing so you get to hear your own voice telling you how you think, what you think of, what you think's right, what you think's wrong, what you'd like to be, who you'd like to be, how you'd like to feel, what you'd like to do, what you'd like your emotions to be, and what kind of children you'd like to have, character wise, and yourself character wise, and the future. What would you like for the future? What would you like the future to be? And then when someone comes along with all the flowers and the money and the car and the night out, the parties and the whatever, the occasions, the functions, instead of seeing all of that, the materialistic side of the person, your mind is prepared for the more meaningful things you'd like in a person. In days of old, hundreds of years ago, only a couple of hundred years ago, even in the 1950s, young females were taught to see a man as or a male as a father and their character, and then they would value the person's character for the future. And so they'd say, oh, well, if he's a druggie or an alcoholic or he's violent or he's into crime or he's got bad language and all that sort of stuff, she would say, well, he's not going to be a good father. He's not going to be a good husband. We're not going to get on. Today, it's the opposite. If he's foul mouthed, if he's into pornography, if he parties up large, if he does drugs, if he drinks a lot, if he's cool with the crowd, does whatever the crowd tells him or the government, then he's seen as fantastic, which is the total opposite. Hence all the divorces. So, in the whole Bible, the issue of the Bible that religion takes away is the creation of your good character, so that you will have a good future and your downline would be good, and your children, grandchildren, and so forth. When you heal alone, you grow up in a caustic, toxic society. When you heal alone, you're at home by yourself. You get to know yourself. You can do this with another person who really cares, because that person will help you heal and bring out the good in you instead of bringing it. My ex-wife was good at bringing out the bad in me, the anger and the frustration. And whereas if she'd been the opposite in character, she would have brought the good in me, the happiness, the joyful living and stuff like that. So when you live alone, you heal yourself, and in doing that, you can see what you really want in the world. And then all those people in the past who were telling you this is how you should live, that parents, brothers and sisters, aunties and uncles, the crowd, school, your old school friends, and so on, they told you or showed you a way to live that today, after spending some time by yourself, you come out and say, "Nah, that's not me." It's very much like what they called going bush, where people would go out, and I know people have done this. Always wanted to do it myself. Was they'd uh, basically go completely off grid, but they would just take a tent, or they'd find it were what do you call them? Not a cottage, out in the bush you have a shack or I can't remember the name. And you go to, we'll call it a shack, and you go out to the woods and with the basic gear, no electronics whatsoever, no phones, no way to contact people back home, no TV, no radio, nothing. And then you just live off the land. So you go straight there. You'd probably go in spring, plant gardens and everything. And you might be there 2 months, you might be there a year. And then when you're finished, you come back to society with your mind reformed. You find things are more important that you ignored in the past. Your goals become completely different. Your feelings towards other people. You really appreciate companionship, honesty, close people, people who care, and you can recognize them. You can actually recognize them. I have this thing where I can just walk up to a person and sense who they are. I get fooled every now and then. I mean, no one's perfect. I make mistakes. There's some people I really thought were good people, and I've worked with them, I've been with them for a while, and then found out they were bad. So I've been fooled, especially where females are concerned. Um, but there are, especially when males are concerned, I've been able to pick them out. Probably because I had 6 sisters and they were always going with bad guys. Because how mum was. Mum was saying, just sleep with anyone. It's just sex. Um, if you can sleep with a guy and get money, go for it. Mum was like that. So, yeah, I used to see my sisters always with bad guys, and I was always warning them. And they said, well, how do you know? What do you know about it? And the guy turned out bad. And it was just, and then when the good guys came along, I said, he's a nice guy, they'd ignore him because he was boring, he was unattractive, he was not exciting, not thrilling, not what they wanted. So when you live alone, you take your character as it was that believes all those things, and then or go bush, and then you discover more important things. It always reminds me of the story of that boy on the radio, a New Zealand guy, a teenager. He was probably 18, maybe. He said he went overseas on one of those peace missions. He was very cocky, very arrogant, thought he was, this is his words, thought he was really cool. And he got overseas and they were going down a road, a country road, in the back of a lorry with no roof on it. And so going along, and then they were shooting, and he was told to get down. And then he looked on the sides of the roads, and there were dead bodies on both sides of the roads of people who'd been killed. And he was told to get down, face down on the lorry, on the floor of the back deck. And he was laying down, thinking, I'm going to die. And then all these bullets were hitting the vehicle. And he was like, what the heck? And he was terrified. And once they got through that area, they got to a safer area and everything. But what he said from that experience, he completely changed his character. He realized that the person he was horrible and obnoxious. People needed help. And he stayed there like a year or two. I think it was maybe 3 years or something. It was a while. And he helped the poor and the suffering and the wounded. And when he came back to New Zealand, he was a completely different person. And Benjamin Franklin did the same thing. So it's all about changing character. So when you live alone, your character changes. And he was talking to his best friend. He adored this guy very much. And the guy turned around and he said to Ben that Ben said, so what do you think of me? Honestly, what do you really think of me? And he said, his friend said, I think you're obnoxious, you're arrogant, you're prideful, you're into yourself. And Benjamin Franklin was very shocked to find out this person thought this about him. It horrified him. And so the shock hit him like a huge slap in the face. And he completely changed his character from that moment. I've heard of people changing their character from reading a verse of the Bible or a quote. Just one sentence and they go, oh my gosh, I got it all wrong. And they change. For me, it's something really bad happened in 2004. I went from atheist to a believer in God and changed my life. And I did that all before I ever went near a church. So living alone gives you that chance to really find yourself. And I mean in depth and deeply inside. And then you could it all just sort of comes together and you think, yeah, this is what I really want. This is really what I really believe. This is what I really need. What am I doing here? What can I change now? And then you just go into it. And you might, in the past, you might have hesitated because there was a person in your life who would turn you around and say, oh, don't do that because of blah, blah. You'll come out of this, and like if you went bush and you come back and you just turn around and they say, don't do this because of, and you just look at them and say, see you later, and just go and do it. When your priorities change, your feelings and your thoughts and your desires and your beliefs and what you believe in the world, it all changes. Like with every person, you have like a belief system. You have your belief system of the world, what you believe is real. Then with each person, they can change how you think and what you do, each and every one of them. And you'll find they have an influence on you. And when I know some people, one I call a sponge. Every time she's in a certain environment with certain people, she changes to those people, but she doesn't know she does. She does it subconsciously. And when they all sit there and go, you agree? And she's like, yeah. Then she'll go with other people who are older and maybe more mature and with a different view. And she's like, yes, I agree. And she agrees with everybody because she's always, a lot of it's people pleasing. It's like she doesn't realize. And she's got no foundation of beliefs that's enough for her to turn around and say to people, no, stop. That's not happening. This is how I do things. And then do them her own way. She's like a sponge. She in every environment she lives in, she's like a squeeze sponge. She soaks up everything she's told to believe. And then the next moment, she's squeezed out and doesn't, it's like She has no ability to comprehend or think or act or react or behave on her own, based on her own thoughts. It's all this other stuff. And so, yeah. So living alone gives you that, and it's very valuable. It's huge. It's a completely new person comes from within you, pushing out all the fake, and it's like an onion. You know, you peel off the outer edges to get to the core of it. It's the core is who you really are, and you push out all the other junk and get rid of it. And a lot of people go into the bush that they might not, they might have a lot of protective armor around them, but as they get closer to animals and they have pets and they um, get to know themselves more and their emotional side, and they cry and they lie and they miss people, they, when they go back to society, they're far more emotional and deep and meaningful than they ever were before. So, you know, that's important in living alone. So that's another thing about it. You're healing your inside, your heart, your soul. Now the thing is, you're doing different sports, you're doing different activities, and you're having fun the way you want to have fun. Not your friends turn up and say, "Hey, come on, let's go out," or your friends saying, "Oh, you do that." I can't remember it. It just popped into my head of this person. She wanted to do something really important, and so she went out and she did it. And she told her friends, her best friends from school, and they were all of hysterics. And they said, "Oh, don't be an idiot! You do that? I mean, that's so square. What a loser!" And she gave it up because of what they said, and it was her heartfelt desire. It was a thing she'd always wanted to do. I think it was like play the violin or something, or play a saxophone, maybe a violin. And this is where our society and the people we live with give us a belief system that's not us. In 2 years' time, she forgot all about her desire to play the violin. She became a druggie and a boozer and had lots of loose sex, and that was her for many years. And then one day, much older, she remembered and took up the violin. Whereas if she'd have done it earlier, she could have really enjoyed her life the way she wanted to. But she let the environment she was in force her to think a way she actually didn't honestly want to think. And that's the important thing about living alone. You get to find out what you really want. I'll leave it at that. God bless you.